Welcome to Philanthropy SA. This is a podcast about and for the philanthropic community in San Antonio and South Texas. We introduce organizations and people who are making an impact in the community. Beneficent Financial is proud to sponsor this podcast, and it is our hope that you enjoy this conversation about the impact we can have. The goal is to edify and inspire. Now please join our host, Dan Redman.
Thank you for joining us today on Philanthropy SA. I'm your host, Dan Redman, and very pleased to be joined by Paul Garro. He is the Director of Development at the Little Flower Basilica here in San Antonio. And first of all, Paul, welcome back.
Thank you, Dan.
You've been on the podcast before. You were talking Rotary back when you were the president of the Downtown Rotary Club, and I know you're still very active in that, but I really wanted to do a deeper dive on the Basilica because there's a lot of great stuff going on there, and I want to give the opportunity for you to let the folks in San Antonio know everything that's going on. Before we go into that, we did hear about you last time. So you've been an educator for a long time. Correct. And then kind of found yourself in this, and seems like you're always dabbling in a lot of different things. So kind of a philanthropic entrepreneur. But in terms of as it relates to the Basilica, what I'd be curious is, tell us a little bit about that, because I was looking things up here, and there's only 4 basilicas in the state of Texas. And so we've got one of them right here. And, there's only so many basilicas. What is it that makes something a basilica?
Well, thank you. And what a pleasure it is to be with you again and have this conversation. So the Little Flower Basilica is a real gem for the city of San Antonio, but the Basilica is sort of like one of the Pope's embassies throughout the world. So if you think about the United States having embassies throughout the world, we're representing who we are and our mission and our culture and trying to build capacity and democracy across the world. Well, the Vatican also has sort of these embassies throughout the world, and they're called minor basilicas. The only major basilica is there in Rome, and then there are a number of minor basilicas, and the Little Flower Basilica is one of them. And there are very few in Texas and maybe only 100 or so in the United States. And so as that sort of embassy of the Pope or of the Vatican, these are places where the mission of the church from the Pope's seat, if you will, is supposed to be illuminated to the different people throughout the world. And we are so fortunate to have Little Flower Basilica here in San Antonio because of its beautiful architecture, the art that's there, the programs that are done at the Basilica. But I think we're also lucky because the Discalced Carmelite religious order actually are the people that run the Basilica. And they offer such a wonderful charism or gift, if you will, to the people that come through the Basilica. And that gift is, with all the noise and all the complexities of our life, we should always make sure that we spend time in silence to try to find some peace, things that bring calm to us, serenity. And so the Basilica for some people is merely a respite, a place where they can find that spiritual respite or just a physical respite from all the other craziness going on.
Yeah. No, it's, with cell phones and all the activity and the hubbub, it's harder and harder to break away like that. So it's a beautiful structure, and the architecture is amazing, and there's just a lot. It's a place that is unlike anything else you're going to find in San Antonio, and it's also something that is a place that, depending on people's faith, it can, bring a lot of spiritual solace, if you will. But it also is a place that you can just sit and enjoy the artwork and the architecture and the history because of the history there. So tell us a little bit about Little Flower. So I was under the mistaken impression that there was a teeny tiny flower in the middle of this basilica, and that's what. But no, Little Flower is actually a person.
Right. So there was a person who lived in Lisieux, France, and she actually was such a holy person, died at the age of 24, And one of the things that she taught us in her writings and in her actions was that we do find God in beauty, and often the most beautiful things right there around us are in nature. And so we can find God or find this solace or find this peace right there in nature around us. And she talks about that in nature, we don't have to be as human beings, always that most illustrious flower in the garden. We don't have to be the iris or the whatever, the very large, beautiful. We could be just that small, and for Texas, that small little wildflower, right? We might be that blue bonnet, but we might also be that flower that maybe goes unnoticed by most people. And she would say God notices even the littlest of flowers. And so our way to heaven our way to this spiritual journey could be a little way. In other words, some of the smallest deeds that we do, if we do them out of love, if we do them very genuinely, we do them because we care and have compassion and empathy for another person, that small act of kindness, that small act of love has, huge repercussions, right? And that we don't have to have extreme influence. We just go about doing some things that perhaps through our own vulnerability and through our own brokenness, we do something out of love. She says that's the little way that we can go about. So thus, the little flower, she became known as the little flower. And she talks about this little way, right?
And what's her name?
So St. Teresa de Lisieux. And one of the interesting things about her is that her parents are also saints. So she came from a very, very holy family. And I think she came from a large family. Most of her brothers and sisters all somehow or other became, part of organizations where they were very mission driven. So either they became priests or nuns or got involved in the church community to carry out that mission
very good
that their parents gave them.
Well, I know people, particularly in the church, it's always a good thing when you can see women being held up by the church, as role models, as, someone to follow and to emulate. There's a reputation anyway that's not always the case in terms of the way that gets done within the church. And so it's very nice to see that and to see a basilica, in honor of that and in honor of not necessarily a grand life or a life that, you think of Joan of Arc, or right. Somebody like that. But when you're thinking of someone who lived a simple life and lived and extolled the virtues of that and being in that capacity. So definitely a life worth looking at and contemplating. So we have the Basilica here. It was built quite some time ago. And so that probably means that there's work that needs to be done on it, right?
There is, right? And in fact, this is the 100th year of St. Teresa's, the anniversary of her becoming a saint. And the Basilica itself has experienced, just by aging, there's some things that need to be maintained and restored, and then deferred maintenance. And so we're actually beginning a campaign just at the very initial steps of it to bring, in some ways, back to its beauty, restoring many of the aspects of it. So, for example, if you're in San Antonio, right off of I-10 in Culebra, you see these gold domes over in the distance, or if you've ever gone over and walked or biked along Woodlawn Lake and you look towards downtown, you can see those gold domes, right, on the horizon. Well, those gold domes have leaks in them, over time. They've been weathered and in some places broken. And so we need to restore the roof and bring back, just the security that roof means to that basilica. And there are many other aspects of it, but we want to restore the beauty inside, the artwork that's inside, the architectural that's inside. But really one of the things that excites me is as we look to restore the basilica and the surrounding areas, there's actually a school right across the street called Little Flower School but we also want to become known as an anchor for things of beauty and programs that bring people to experience that love and that beauty, things that stir the soul. So yes, there are spiritual things that happen at the Basilica, and there is faith formation that occurs at the school. But we also have some things like Friday, April 11th, we will have SA Philharmonic there, and they will be performing Bach's Easter Oratorio. And Bach wrote that, many, many, many years ago to be performed in a structure like the Basilica. And so we're just so excited. So you could just be someone that loves music, someone that loves the arts, someone that's curious, but or someone that wants to extend your spiritual journey. But hearing Bach's Easter Oratorio performed, at the Basilica, which has tremendous acoustics, by some just world-class musicians, that's the kind of programming that we're also having there.
Yeah, so it's more than just, it's also a parish for that part of the city, but beyond that, it's, a cultural site for the city at large.
It is. It's a parish of about 3,000 people. So these are your loyal parishioners that come to the Basilica day in and day out. But then we do experience a number of people that journey to the Basilica from all across the world. So it's meant to be a national shrine. In fact, part of its name is it is a national shrine. And so there are pilgrimages, people that will go on journey to the Little Flower Basilica, and for the variety of reasons that we discussed, just because they want to see the beauty, they want to learn about the heritage and culture, but oftentimes they're on a spiritual journey. And so they come to the Basilica seeking healing, seeking some kind of peace of mind during a time in their life where they need that solace. Mm-hmm. But and this is the year of pilgrimage, So we're really hoping not only to get the message out that we're restoring the Basilica and renewing it, but that we are a destination for pilgrims. So thank you for mentioning that.
Absolutely. No, it's great that like I said, there's only 4 in the state of Texas. So, there's if people are wanting to go to see these kinds of sites, it makes sense that they're going to want to come here to see something like that. Talk a little bit about some of the things that make the Basilica just such a great place to visit, regardless of your faith, in terms of the architecture and the art and that type of thing.
So as soon as you walk into the Basilica, there are some stained glass windows that are just amazing. And the story behind those stained glass windows involve some iconic figures from the past. So St. Teresa of Avila, around the 1500s, was a woman that to be dealt with. She was a great leader in a time and trying to make some changes in a time when it was a very, very much a man's world. And she reformed the Catholic Church in many ways. She spoke directly to the Pope at that time. And the Carmelite order was one of those religious orders that she wanted to make sure was keeping true to their mission. And so in her writings and in who she was, those stories of what the impact that she made are in the stained glass windows. And she had, hopefully, we all have a mentor or friend that we can trust. She had a colleague or mentor friend that she trusted in the person that we call St. John of the Cross. And he also had a fervor to just make some changes in the world to get back to what he thought was who we were supposed to be as human beings and getting back to the heart and soul of who we were. And so the two of them were amazing colleagues and have made such an impact to this day. He was a poet. He was a writer. He was an artist. And we have stained glass windows that, again, depict his story. So the stained glass windows, some of the architecture, like one of the things that I just can't imagine how they did it, but there's some ironwork in the Basilica, where it was done, at a time where there wasn't the technology and the tools that you have available today, but you have someone that was using, think about the 1920s, and he has very ornate flowers, very ornate roses, very ornate, ironwork in the lights that we have in some of the different structures that we have, throughout the Basilica. So I could go on and on about the woodwork that's there, the marble work. I would be remiss if I didn't mention the mosaics. The floor has amazing mosaic work. And then also there's mosaic artwork that's on the altar, on the walls. Just really, if you just enjoy art and want to see the artistry of what's in the Basilica, that's a reason to come visit itself.
Absolutely. We're going to hear more about the Basilica in just a minute, but first we're going to hear a word from our sponsor.
Many of you out there care deeply about wanting to make an impact on the world around you. You want to help take care of the people and organizations that are important to you. We understand that because we feel the same way. Beneficent Financial wants to help you. Our mission is to help people like you with professional, individualized financial advice achieve their objectives. Whether your financial legacy will stay within your family or benefit the community at large, we are able to help. Call Beneficent Financial today at 210-999-5511. In addition to traditional wealth management, we offer philanthropic services such as direct donations of required minimum distributions, donor advised funds, and foundations. Call 210-999-5511 or go online to beneficentfinancial.net. Let us help you do well so you can do good. Securities offered through Momentum Independent Network, member SIPC/FINRA.
Welcome back to Philanthropy SA. I'm your host, Dan Redman, and joined by Paul Garro. And we're talking about the Little Flower Basilica today. So talking about the place that it holds within the church, obviously, but then beyond that, the place that it holds in our community. And one of the things that we, you referenced it a little bit ago, is that kind of anchor in that part of town. And talk about some of the vision that's going on right now, both from leaders within the Basilica and then the local community, and kind of what they're hopeful of being able to have happen, in that part of town, which is the near west side. And it's not the most economically developed part of town. It's not an area that, gets a lot of attention, in some of the better ways that some other parts of town do.
Yeah. So thank you, Dan. So we do have a master plan and how we can improve the area directly there where the Basilica is, but also near the Basilica, right? And we discovered that San Antonio is doing some long-range comprehensive planning also. They're calling it SA Tomorrow. So if you've been involved in any sort of long-range planning, you know that the best way to do it is to get feedback and input and involvement from as many people as you can. And so San Antonio has about 30 regions that they have demarked, and those 30 regions are at different stages of development. And the area where the Basilica is, so you have the Basilica, you have Elizon Creek, you have Woodlawn Lake. That area there has just begun the conversations with the community. So we had our first meeting just recently, and we sent postcards out to about 26,000 people. And the idea was, what do you envision for 2040? What kinds of quality of life would you like to enjoy here in San Antonio? How can we continue to make sure there's economic development? How can we make sure that our heritage and our culture and our history is honored? So all of those topics are being listened to by the development folks with San Antonio. Well, we're fortunate because we're hoping that our master plan can be integrated in, or it's a subset of, or it can be acknowledged as a part of the larger plan. And so far, that's gone very well. In fact, the first meeting we had was over on our campus, where we invited people from that whole area to envision what we're going to be doing in that area. And we'd like to play a major role in that, the Basilica and its campus and the school and maybe some other types of things that we can plan for and raise money for to be on that campus that would be assets for the larger community, not just for the community that knows and loves the Basilica.
Absolutely. And you've got plans for the Basilica itself. I know you have a project and you're working on a capital campaign, if you will. Talk about kind of some of the goals and objectives there.
Well, it's a heavy lift in some ways. Our capital campaign is about a $40 million effort, and that's only going to be accomplished with widespread help and almost going back to our roots. When the Basilica was built and the doors were opened in 1931, the money that was collected to build that Basilica was from all over the world. And it was done through a magazine that was sent through, thousands and thousands of people throughout the world. And people sent in $10, $20, $30. And I think at that time in 1931, if you reached the threshold of a $30 donation, you were placed upon your name was placed upon the wall, in the Basilica. And so that grassroots effort we're trying to replicate. We also know that we're going to need some champions that value art, value history, value architecture, value this spiritual center, value this destination as a pilgrimage to step up and help us. And so that's where we're at now, is just the initial stages of forming the teams that can do that, securing the area to be more safe for people to come. And so we've just, I don't know if we've launched it. We've had a number of meetings and a number of, I would say, a soft launch. So in November, we had opera for the first time in the Basilica with the Classical Music Institute. And that was sort of one of our ways to launch what we're doing, because we drew in over 500 people from all variety of walks of life that came to enjoy the opera, but we also had that opportunity to explain to them about this master plan and about this campaign. And that was a huge success for us for awareness and building some friends for this campaign.
Very good. So you've got some momentum going, but the nature of the project means, like you said, it's going to have to expand beyond San Antonio to accomplish that, which makes sense given, like we've been saying, there's only 4 basilicas in Texas. So if you get a quarter of Texas to contribute, I think you'll make it.
I think so.
So we'll work on that. So talk about kind of where the Basilica fits in, not just within the local area there in, on the near west side, but in San Antonio in general, and kind of where your vision is for that.
Thanks, Dan. Yeah. So all of this is visionary, right? It's at a state of it's in the plan, but it's not actualized yet. So imagine somebody comes from either locally or they get on a tour bus and they come to San Antonio and they might tour the World Heritage sites of the missions, but they might also discover that St. Therese was a UNESCO World Heritage person. And they come over to we've been discussing maybe the area is called the Rose District because of her love for the roses. And when she was dying, she said people were worried, like, oh, my gosh, we're going to miss you so much. And she said, I will bestow upon you a shower of roses. And there will be signs that love is, I'm working for you and sending down some love and some blessings in abundance. And so we thought, well, maybe there would be a welcome center in this area, and someone might want to come see the Basilica. Someone might also want to go walk down to the creek, Elizon Creek, enjoy nature, We think that's critical, is to get children, right, to be involved with and engage with the natural environment, growing flowers, maybe a community garden, that sort of thing. So that's sort of the vision that we're going with. And that in addition to the spiritual kinds of formation and events that we have, that there's also some programming that would be done for everyone, that there would be some family talking about how to have strong family. There would be some programming for how to have strong marriage. Maybe that's first, and then you have the strong family. But and how to develop a value system and a character system, with children and with youth. Obviously, the school is there and does that, but how can the school, through this campaign, how can it then illuminate or amplify what it does in the community?
Sure. Well, I know that those are great objectives, and you kind of started getting into one of my favorite topics, which is going upstream in the cycles of how do we fix some of these things. So when you're talking about strong families and strong marriages and that kind of stuff, I know there's folks like Carl Caton with the San Antonio Marriage Initiative and that organization that would love to come alongside you in those efforts. So the opportunity to make an impact in that way. And I think kind of really glad that you mentioned those things, because as we look at fixing some of these kinds of things, the beautiful building and the beautiful artwork are going to attract people. But what's going to actually move the needle in terms of people's lives are going to be these other things that will be enabled because of the location, because of the opportunity to see this beautiful structure and be involved with this. But it's that other work that's going to actually make the difference, in the day in, day out lives with all these folks.
Oh, absolutely.
So one question that two questions that I've got as we're getting ready to wrap. The first one is, how do people reach out to you and reach out to the Basilica if they want to see you go on a tour, or if they want to, help come alongside you to do these things? What's the best way to reach you?
So littleflowerbasilica.org has all of our contact information, all of our events coming up, both spiritual and both sort of like the secular things, if you will, programmatic things that are going on, like the SA Philharmonic event. littleflowerbasilica.org, and you can reach me through there. On my business card, I actually have the gold domes from the Basilica on there, because that helps start the conversation about where are you and what are you about. And so on there, I do have my cell phone number. And so if you get a hold of me through littleflowerbasilica.org, I'm going to try to get you my cell phone number as soon as possible, because that's the best way to go with me on that. But start with littleflowerbasilica.org. It's all lowercase, all one word. And that would be the perfect place to start.
Outstanding. And what's something I didn't ask you about today, or something that you want to make sure that you get an opportunity to talk about that we didn't get a chance to so far?
Well, you asked some great questions. I think I want to just emphasize that the vision for this transcends the direct area. We want to uplift and enhance the direct area, but we also want to make sure that this particular area uplifts other areas, right? So part of our master plan is just that, to have the right partners beyond the distinct area, beyond even San Antonio, right? And in some ways beyond Texas, because it is this basilica and this national shrine. So we didn't really go into that, but I would say some people that are listening to this that want to see the basilica, yes, but maybe there's people listening that have a gift to offer or contribution to make as a partner and can help, bring this to fruition, but also through that partnership can really help enhance what we're trying to do. Because we don't have all the answers, right? We have some answers that we're trying to push out there, but we definitely don't have all the answers. And so the more people can join us in this, the better quality this will become as we go forward.
Absolutely. What's the expression? Together, everyone achieves more, right?
Correct.
Team, TEAM.
You got
so
it.
That's what Paul's trying to do, and I hope you'll consider whether that's something that's getting moved on your heart to participate in. So on behalf of Philanthropy SA, this is your host, Dan Redmond, saying thank you for listening. Thank you, Paul, for being here, and reminding everyone to do well so you can do good.
Thank you for joining us at Philanthropy SA. We hope you found something to inspire you during today's conversation. If you know organizations and people who are making an impact in the community, we would love to hear about it. Until next time, do well so you can do good.